Hey, welcome to the DanjA Zone. It's Ashli. And this is part 2 of my Lady C's Meghan and Harry, the real story book review. Spoiler alert, so if you don't want to know, don't watch. Lots of love and many blessings your way. I meant to include something about their wedding yesterday. So evidently it's customary for the bride and groom to bow and curtsy to the Queen, the very last thing they do before they start walking, towards their new life together. Meghan did not do that. She just blew on out them doors. It was her time. Nothing of respect towards any one of them. Not the Queen, not the St. George's Chapel, not even towards her guest. It was all about her. I noticed quite a few Diana moves during that day. She was trying to recreate the over-the-shoulder look as she was in motion, which is truly my favorite picture of Diana's wedding day. And of course, she did not want the traditional wedding cake. She had a big problem with that, and she totally snubbed the fruitcake. She did not want to follow tradition when it came to the royal fruitcake. That thing is gorgeous, by the way. I'd love to have a crumb that fell on the floor. And her recreation of her picture that she took with her second husband, Trevor Engelson, she did with Harry. Their backs are there turned to the camera. In other words, it's them against the world. Another fantasy creation in Meghan's head. She is truly frightening, seriously. Somebody, I don't know, I'm not even gonna say nothing. I'm just gonna keep on going. She was obsessed with classiness, according to the book. Everything had to be classy, according to Meghan. I have a really sweet friend named Pretzel, and I've told you guys about this in the past. They have somebody very close to them that works in the business, and they knew of Meghan, and Meghan would constantly watch The Princess Diaries. This was even before meeting Harry. She was totally obsessed with Princess Diana in the royal family growing up, and then becoming obsessed with this Princess Diary movie led to a small obsession for all things fairy tale for Meghan. Now, speaking of her obsessions, let's get back to Eugenie's wedding day and this tiara. Meghan had this vendetta against Eugenie for having chosen that emerald green tiara. And then the Queen, promising it to her and telling Meghan, no, you can't wear that. The book doesn't mention whether or not Eugenie and Meghan had a conversation. Did Meghan go to this girl and say, look, can we, choose a different tiara for your wedding day? I'd love to have it for mine. I'm not sure. And maybe that's why Meghan was so upset and felt like she needed to pay her back. Or did Meghan create another fantasy in her head and she didn't get her way, therefore she was going to ruin Eugenie's big day? I'm going to go with the second option. Anyway, so she was hell-bent on ruining Eugenie's day. She wanted all the spotlight to be on her. So the moment she got there, of course, she's wearing this outfit that made her look several months pregnant. I have never hidden the fact that I personally do not believe that she carried a child. So she shows up with Harry to this wedding of Eugenie's special day, looking several months pregnant, and she's introducing herself to people, she and Harry, and immediately announcing that they're expecting. And from there, it was no longer Eugenie's wedding day. It was, hey, Meghan and Harry are expecting. All of the attention was off of Eugenie and put on Meghan and Harry. Well, Meghan. That is so nasty. Speaking of nasty, you can obviously tell that she's just chewing Harry up in some points of this wedding. So getting back to it, when they were asked, how did you spend your honeymoon? They quickly shot people down and shut them up. We're not giving you guys that information. That's something we're going to keep really close and private. We don't feel like everybody needs to know. And according to this book, Meghan was extremely smug when they were shooting people down regarding their privacy in the honeymoon. Yet they were so free to say, hey, we're expecting. Do you see what she did there? Over a dang tiara that had nothing to do with her. All because somebody told Meghan N-O. So the book also mentions the fact that she wanted to charm everybody. She charmed the britches right off of Charles. She was his little tungsten after all. Meghan is several different people. I've noticed this myself. in front of the rules and the spotlight. She's this humanitarian that loves warm and fuzzy hugs. She's a real big people person. Behind closed doors, I bet you she'd make Lucifer whimper. 3 days after the wedding, the word came out officially. They were expecting their first royal bundle. And here comes the ever-changing baby bump. And, of course, her hands are constantly on her stomach. She's constantly cradling this bump. It's so nauseating. And here's what Lady Colin Campbell started off with. Not being a conspiracy theorist, I prepared to consider that Meghan's conduct, as she drew attention to that, what she called the bump, owed more to her actressness than to anything else. However, the word had spread on the internet amongst the uncomfortably large number of contributors that she was attempting to con the world into believing that she was pregnant when she was not. While it was possible to discount some of the contributors as crazies or something even more odious like racist, there were just too many people piling in, some quite sane sounding, for the problem to be dismissed out of hand. Plainly, she says, there was a problem and it needed to be addressed respectfully and, if possible, learnt from. I guess I was considered one of those crazies and still am, because I'm telling you, she was never pregnant, in my opinion. Not that particular time anyway. And she goes on to say that, it was obvious that Meghan had gotten too big too quickly. She then continued to grow at a pace that was more in keeping with a woman, having triplets than one that was having one child or even twins. Now, according to Lady Colin Campbell, journalists were approaching her every time she attended a public event. And it went from that to calling her all the time, asking her if she knew what was going on, what was the inside story on how the palace was coping with the deluge of internet stories about the bump being a prosthesis. And the palace was stonewalling them, as it ought to have been doing. Journalists were telling Lady Colin Campbell that there were even pictures of Meghan where the bump had slipped. And the only reason why people were saying she was always keeping her hands on her stomach was not to soothe this unborn child, but to keep the bump in place. I'm one of those people. As this bump grew in size, which was never consistent in my opinion, her clothes became tighter and tighter. Even the social circles that these people were running in were questioning what is up with this. One Nigerian woman said, "I would have been stoned to death had I left the house in an outfit such as that," referring to Meghan's pregnant condition poured into tight clothing. And after Meghan created this entire fiasco regarding her clutching her belly that was always fluctuating in size, she decided to label people as cruel and mean and insensitive towards her. Harry had the audacity to run to his father and his grandmother, according to this book, asking them to intervene. He was tired of the critical commentary that Meghan was getting just for her clutching her belly. And it goes on to say, as far as Harry was concerned, it was his duty to protect his wife, who was very sensitive and took things very much to heart. He was obsessed with protecting her as much as she was. He was ready to defend her right to clutch her belly any way she wanted to for as long as she wanted to. Harry has been made out to be one of the biggest fools that I don't feel a lick of sorrow for. I don't know who this young Nigerian woman is in this book, but I totally love her. According to this woman, she isn't even a good actress. If you've seen Suits, you've seen the act. Sometimes she's acting out a scene from one episode and sometimes another. There's nothing real about that woman. Who doesn't agree with that woman? I know I do. And due to all of this chatter regarding her prosthetic belly bump, the royal family had extra security. They felt like Meghan was perhaps in danger. Nobody agreed with what she was doing, and that was just a threat to her. And they were on a mission to shut down all the websites. They were talking about her ever-changing, shape-shifting prosthetic belly bump. Her feelings were getting hurt. She was with prosthesis after all. One of the royal staff members had said that they were wasting so much time dealing with the fallout from all that's going on around the Duchess of Sussex that some of us have very little time for anything else. In my opinion, she had to have the spotlight no matter what the situation was, and that was her way of getting it. A woman that was totally secure in her pregnancy with her body. If you were a straight up pregnant woman, let me tell you, I've been pregnant 3 times. somebody would have said to me, "You're wearing a prosthesis." Okay, and you keep it moving. You don't sit around crying about it and saying that you're in danger and you're feeling threatened. She made such a big deal out of this. The entire internet abuzz, people seeing her and noticing what she was doing and her behavior, her clothing being so skin tight, this shifting baby bump that she's toting around, clutching it constantly. Listen, she made such a big deal out of this that she had people stop dead in their tracks in the royal family, staff members, everybody, to try to rescue her, come to her aid. That was her way of keeping herself under that spotlight, in my opinion. And I also feel like she was testing the boundaries. She wanted to see how much control she could have. And you know what? She proved she can do just about anything at any time, and they are going to be at her beck and call. That's what that proved to me. And getting to the birth of the baby, even journalists wanted to know, what was so confidential about the name of this doctor? Why couldn't the doctor's name be made public? What was the big secret? If Meghan and Harry had nothing to hide, why were they hiding away like that? And it goes on to say that it mystified many within the establishment that Harry and Meghan would prefer to continue tripping down the path that had given rise to the suspicions rather than taking steps to overcome the suspicions. However, they dug their heels in and stubbornly refused to alter their plans. She was not going to allow anybody to know anything about this child's birth, where it came from, anything, not even the doctor's name. And in the book, even Lady Colin Campbell says this looks like, it came straight out of that story, the baby in the warming pan. And Meghan was so programmed in her mind to clutch her belly bump that if you go back and watch that video of their introducing Archie to the world, you can clearly see her reach to clutch her prosthetic belly. And it really doesn't go too much more into this. It just says that they chose to do it privately, and there's no way they could have, smuggled a child over into the world and blah, blah, blah. And I understand that's Lady Colin Campbell's royal opinion, but I'm outside looking in, and I'm really looking for somebody that loves the spotlight like Meghan does, and everybody knows this. She was flipping her coat open every time she had the opportunity, and when she wasn't flipping her dress open or her jacket open, my bad, she was cradling her belly bump. And as Lady Colin Campbell wrote in the book, drawing attention, wearing too ill-fitted clothes, drawing attention. Somebody that's willing to go that distance to draw attention to themselves while they're pregnant, and if they're that proud, as it was implied in the book, that she was carrying the royal seed, and that's why she kept her hands on it all the time. And like I said just a second ago, her loving the spotlight like she does. She would be wearing Archie like a burqa bag. I've said it 100 times in the past. None of it makes sense. None of it does. And I can honestly say people with those levels of mental issues are not really afraid of much. So for her to feel like maybe the child would be in danger, or that would have to incur more cost of security, which she's not flipping the bill for anyway, come on. So until Jessica Mulroney decides to write a tell-all book, I guess we'll never really know where in the heck Archie comes from. A few other things stood out to me in this book, and here we go. Actions speak louder than words. And in the first several months of them even being married, they lost so many staff members, and they've lost so many nannies since the arrival of this child. That tells me that she is impossible to deal with. She's done whatever she's wanted to do in the royal family, and it blows my mind that it took this D-list actress, this Bud Light actress, to knock them down. Now, she wanted to give everybody the idea, like I said earlier, that she's a softie, a humanitarian, somebody that loves people, warm, cozy hugs. She's a hugger. In the book, it mentions how warm and fuzzy she is. It talks about how she barked at the staff. She disrespected the staff constantly. She threw a hot beverage, which I knew about that, I just didn't know the details, on one of the staff members. And in fact, they paid that person $250,000 not to open their mouth about it. Then it mentions her asking one of these staff members to press one of her outfits, and it just so happened not to have been up to her standards. She raised so much hell over this, humiliating that staff member. And this was typical behavior. This is typical behavior with Meghan Markle, as the book implies. Harry has allowed her to get away with this. He has backed her 110% all the way. So, in front of a camera lens, just like her dad said in the beginning, that is a fake smile. I know my daughter, and that smile is not genuine. And just like she complained to one of her buddies in the beginning that was leaked out, I've had to smile so much that my jaws hurt. So these two inconsiderate brats are living the life of Riley. They're living a life that only people dream of. No struggles, no stress, no worries, no strife. Dress in beautiful clothes, be chauffeured from one point to the next, take lavish trips, go first class, go private if you want to. If you don't feel like tying your shoes, you pay somebody to do it for you. Eat foods from around the world, experience things that we'll never, ever be able to. And all you have to do is act genuine. You don't have to be genuine. Just put it out there that you are. And they couldn't even handle that. Yet we're to believe that these two imbeciles, and that's just what they are going to absolutely flourish in the United States. One is the president, and the other is some big shot philanthropist. What a joke. And what really pisses me off, y'all, is that they're under review. Yeah, they might be a little broke to their standards. They're not broke to our standards, I'll bet you that. But due to the fact that they're under review, they're not going to go hungry. They're not going to be homeless. If there is an Archie, he'll still wear the best. I don't believe the royal family is going to ever tell him no, or we can't, or you're cut off. And after finding out all of her nastiness and all of his half-wittedness, it causes me to have even less respect for the royal family for putting up with it. That was such a good book. It really was an interesting read. Lady Colin Campbell did a fantastic job. And again, a mighty big thank you to Sweet Sharon for sending me a copy. I'm already wishing there was a follow-up to this book. Maybe Jessica will put one out. I'll take two. And I hope you're having a really good day today. I'll see you soon and we'll talk fast. Y'all stay safe and be blessed.